I'm Jasmine. As a few of you may know, I see a lot of familiar faces, which is very reassuring for me. So thanks for coming. So yes, I'm actually based here in Stoke, and I grew up here, and I left to study in London, and now I'm back. So yeah, growing up in Stoke, I was exposed to a lot of ceramics. My grandparents all worked on pots as sort of bit of everything, glazers, banders, casters. And also a lot of my childhood was spent marvelling at stuff in the Potteries Museum, like these Staffordshire flatbacks. And also I've gained a lot of influence from the Martin Brothers Ugly Birds, which some may be familiar with. And there was something in these ugly little faces that I was just really attracted to. It's almost as if the makers themselves were really trying to attach something human or personable to these animals, which sort of made me realise how I'm interested in animal figures and how I can use them to basically, as a metaphor, to show people the human experience, or use animals as basically a vehicle to show different emotions, as they have been used through history. I mean, the earliest sort of depictions have been on cave walls. Humans have used the animal imagery as far back as then to sort of portray their own experience of life. So this is some of my really early work. I studied at Staffordshire University down the road, and I got very interested in model making and slip casting. And there was a sort of ex-model maker from the industry that was actually working as a technician there, and I'd spend late nights with him, and he'd show me how to sort of make these masters and make plaster molds from them, and I'd learn how to do sort of slip casting. So these were basically my contemporary interpretations of the old Staffordshire flatback figures. And I was also very interested in super elaborate tiles that would have been used in like Victorian era, because Stoke has a very rich sort of history within tile making. So these were sort of my interpretations of that. So I went on to do quite a few exhibitions around Stoke, and then using my model making knowledge to do projects such as the Staffordshire Flatback Dog Project, and these were sent to different schools and youth organisations where they got involved and decorated their own dog, sort of like, if everyone knows the Cow Project and stuff like that, this was our own sort of Stokey take on that. And this is just before it got shut down, one of the beautiful hidden buildings of Stoke, which Stoke seems to be filled with these sort of awesome hidden buildings. It was an old Victorian swimming pool in Burslem that got closed down, and before that happened, artists, as they do, took it over, and we basically filled it with art and made it a really good sort of creative night. Some of you may have been there. So that was my piece. And then I went to do a little bit of work, more work with my sort of model making and slip casting. I ended up in the sort of street art scene with that one. Sort of different graffiti artists and street artists would approach me, and I would turn their little characters into ceramic forms. And I work with companies such as Flex doing that, creating these ceramic art objects, and I basically turned into my little mini sort of model production doing those. And then from sort of graduating off my bachelor's, I got involved with a famous installation called Blood, Sweat, Lands and Seas of Red that Paul Cummings did. And I got involved with that at Johnson's Tiles because that was one of the three sort of factors that were helping create this project, where we filled the whole entire sort of moat around the London Tower with these ceramic poppies. An extremely immense project. There was about 1 million poppy heads that we had to create. And down at Johnson's Tiles, the team, which I was a part of, we created a majority of those. And I made that many poppy heads by the end of it. I woke up in the middle of the night folding my bed sheets into a poppy. It got that bad. So that was a lot of experience with like larger scale installations at that point. So after that, I had a little bit of experience as a technician running workshops in Middleport and at Valentine's Clay and different sort of areas down the road. And I sort of decided then it was my time to go and expand my knowledge and join a master's course. So I went whole hog and joined the Royal College of Art, applied there and got in. And during my time there, I was very interested in sort of esoteric imagery and like occult style things and sort of creatures of myths and legend. And in one of the first projects I was looking at really ancient cultures, including the Jomon people of Japan, which was arguably one of the first sort of crafting cultures that humans ever had, and that was in the sort of north of Japan. And they were some of the first people to actually make pots and elaborate vases, which were more like this green one. That was my interpretation of what they did. And some of these pots are that sort of obscure that it's baffled a few researchers, and some would even say that they were like extraterrestrial, alien, like belonging to a different planet. So I was looking at different symbology in that and how they represent different elements like fire and water, and sort of I was playing with how I could probably make ceramics a bit more malleable after firing like this. And I basically made these sort of squidgy vases that were combining rope and clay together. So yeah. I also had a great opportunity while at the RCA to work with Waddesdon Manor. So we went around there, and obviously I was immediately drawn to their sort of aviary at the back, and they've got sort of, I think it's registered as the world's smallest zoo. It's basically a little aviary that they've got in the gardens, and I was attracted to these beautiful little birds down there. They had multiple birds that I then sketched and took inspiration from, and they sort of selected me to then create these as a dinnerware set for them, and they sold it at Waddesdon Manor. And then Thomas Goods then found that and exhibited it for London Design Week. So yeah, that was a nice successful project, and also led me delve into the world of sort of dinnerware production and luxury branding and stuff like that. But I was in it for the animals, basically. Then with a group of us at the RCA, we all decided to, as a group, get some of our savings together, and we all booked a trip to Jingdezhen in China. And we stayed in a friend's really lovely old sort of traditional looking house where they have a ceramics residency on it. We did lots of raku and wood firing in what they call the dragon kilns, these huge sort of kilns that resemble dragons, I guess. So that was a really eye-opening experience, having not really ventured out of Stoke too much before this to look at different sort of culture around ceramics. So to see what went on there was sort of really eye-opening, and almost like I was in a culture shock for the first sort of week. So we spent basically the whole of August doing our own little residency that we funded ourselves. I was then selected to go back to China after that as part of the Royal College's pilot programme to send some of their students overseas to Jingdezhen, Taoxuan. I still can't pronounce it. So for those who don't know, Taoxuan is basically one of the big meccas for ceramics. It's basically a city made of and based on ceramic industry. Even the lampposts are made of ceramic, and there's whole streets dedicated to making kilns, whole streets dedicated to glazes. It's like, if you're a ceramicist, it's an absolute wonderland. So I got the opportunity to go back as one of their selected students to go on the pilot program at the arts residency space. And it was then that I got to witness actually how big you can go with ceramics. And some of the things they do over there are immense, like these huge sort of 12-foot tall Buddhas, even taller than that, 20-foot tall Buddhas, vases that are sort of 3 times my height, whole entire furniture sets that are just made of thrown ceramics. So it really made me want to get bigger and bigger with my work. In this picture, you can sort of see us at the large pot and sculpture factory, and then in the other picture is me sculpting a grizzly dog head out of clay. He was very heavy and now remains as a plaster mold over in China, so I've got to go and try and visit that. So I've got to get back over there. So yeah, the next one. It was then that I really wanted to do one of these tables. I basically sat at a cafe and we sat down at these beautiful ceramic sort of tables, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to decorate one of those. So I spent a week at the table making factory with my mobile phone translating my English to very poor Chinese and vice versa. And this lovely family that owned the factory fed me and sort of guided me as I made this table. And it was during this residency, I had a lot of imagery with dogs. I was looking at basically dogs as another sort of vehicle to portray human emotion, especially I was at the time researching a lot of correlation with feminist symbology and the domestication of women versus the domestication of dogs and stuff like that. And I sort of thought, wouldn't it be great sort of on this this table set to sort of put this imagery of domestication on sort of one of the ultimate domestic kind of objects. So I created that, and that's me creating it and extremely happy with my outcome. It was very chilly as well. That they're where we were in China, it was very popular at the time to wear these huge padded, almost like clown trousers, and they were fur lined. It was amazing. Again, I began to delve into animals as metaphor. And I looked a lot at literature that may use animals, and a lot of Ted Hughes and Edgar Allan Poe, hence the crow imagery. And I was looking at sort of trying to get a bit more of a darker sort of like image through these dogs, the sort of solemn sort of attitudes coming from them. And it was then I decided that I needed to sort of get a bit closer with animals, and these are more, so basically in China it's really good because you can go and get these, work with master throwers and get these huge platters made, and I was sort of using this imagery of like tension and relationships between the animals. So the goat sort of balancing on the edge of the cliff, and the sort of playfulness of the vixens in the next platter. And I was just really trying to get loose with like glazes and imagery and stuff like that. And even more, so I worked on a big vase, and then there's these tiles as well. And I have the video somewhere, but I was extremely lucky to go into the tile district. There's a whole entire district dedicated to tile making. And once or twice a year, they'll make the world's biggest tile, which is probably about 10 meters long and 5 meters high. And it was like a team of 10 men with basically this big steel iron pipe chanting a song so they could roll this huge lump of clay in rhythm. And they basically rolled out this massive tile, and all together, once they had rolled it out, they had to flip it onto a kiln shelf. And one of the most crazy, amazing things I've ever seen. So yeah, I'll try and get that video posted to my Instagram if anyone's following, and you can see that. So yeah, I dabbled in tiles, and it sort of gave me an interest in maybe I could do some bespoke interior style art pieces. So back in the UK, during lockdown, I sort of hastily moved out of London. Living in a shoebox during COVID is not the best. So I came up here and sort of unintentionally ended up working with animals through a friend. I ended up working on a farm and getting to know animals for more than just figurative, but more like the characters behind them, and how animals can be used as more than just the imagery. It's like sort of the emotions that they evoke. So yeah, this is some of the sheep I work with, and one of the baby goats that I helped to deliver and bring into the world. Her name's Cookie. So it gave me a lot of time to take a lot of live drawings, because I work a lot better working from live subject, because there's more you can capture within one quick sort of stroke than what you'd spend looking at a photograph and trying to copy it for ages. That's that sort of immediate gesture that really helps feed into my work and create this sort of imagery, and it allows me to open up and become quite sort of expressive and painterly and sketchy. And I try really hard to not kind of condense myself into a really restricted drawing style. So it just really helps being back within nature and amongst these animals. So also during lockdown, I started to work a lot with ink, also referencing some like Chinese ink paintings that I saw while I was over there. And I sort of tried to make them really loose. And since my sort of access to clay got really cut down, I started to work with paper and make some paper maquettes. We used to get these packages and deliveries, and I'd use the brown packaging paper almost as like a clay substitute. That was until like I was allowed to sort of access clay again. Being sort of trapped in a room without a studio really stops you being able to make clay pieces. So, but it was good. It was almost like allowing myself to step back and evaluate how I was making, and I've used these sort of maquettes to then inform back into the clay making. And I then discovered paper clay, which is a really nice sort of clay they mix with paper fibre, and you can almost get it looking exactly like paper as these sculptures, and it allowed me to make everything a lot finer and almost like these paper sculptures, because I'd discovered something within them, an aesthetic I really wanted. So yeah, opportunities opening up post-master's graduation. I was approached by a private client in London to create a whole entire bathroom with the willow pattern, a pattern that some of us may be familiar with. I know growing up in Stoke, I was extremely familiar with it. And of course, I approached my good old friends Johnson's Tiles, and I worked with them and their technicians on the factory floor to sort of devise on how to do this, because I had never done a project of this scale before. A whole entire room covered with hand-painted tiles is not really a simple feat. So worked closely with the client and closely with the laboratory at Johnson's, and we ended up with this spectacular piece in cobalt and white, which is what traditionally would have been used as cobalt oxide. So a wonderful metal oxide that gives this gorgeous inky blue, which the client paired very nicely with this gold sort of inlay in the bathroom. So yeah, and there was a lot of sort of hurdles to jump and little hiccups. We've done some testing with the tiles that worked out very well. You paint the cobalt on and glaze them, fire, it's fine. come to do the big piece where there's huge chunks to paint with cobalt, and you realise that if you leave the tiles covered in cobalt for longer than a day, it goes a bit dusty and the glaze all crawls, and we'd painted a good majority of it before we realised that that's what happens. So we were back at square one, but luckily, having realised that, the rest of the project went pretty smoothly. And this sort of purpley colour here is the colour that it goes on like, and there's a bit of testing to know what it will come out like when you apply that. So it's almost like a watercolour as it goes on. You can use it as a wash, and the thicker parts will come out as the darkest, inkiest blue. So using that, I decided I wanted to make a few of my own tiles. So again, I'm using my playful vixen sort of icons on this. And this was quite a nice large piece, and the benefits of using tiles is you can sort of lay them all out and really sort of use the whole space to move and create this nice mark making and sort of get a bit loose with it. So back to exploring with sculpture. So this was taken from some live subjects, one of the donkeys at the farm, and sort of a greyhound that I knew. And again, I was looking back at poetry from Ted Hughes and sort of books by Orwell, like Animal Farm, and looking back at literature and this sort of darker edge to storytelling. And these are a few more pieces where I got a bit more exciting with the colour. I wanted to delve a bit more into, colours and experimenting with really bold mark making. Some more sort of charging bull and a crazy London fox, which I had a couple of experiences with living down there. Felt like I was about to get mugged by one of them. And I almost came a bit full circle back into sort of making contemporary versions of old Staffordshire antiques or flatbacks, like this stirrup cup and this sort of flatback dog piece, but I wanted to create a bit more of a sort of a narrative between the characters as well. Doing a bit more research, I had the great opportunity to go over to Florence in Italy and see the marbles on this side, and then this is actually in Chatsworth, which Chatsworth Manor, I absolutely love going there. Amazing interiors, and they collaborate a lot with artists, so if you've never been, highly recommend going there. I fell in love with this lion, and it got me interested in sort of more like neoclassical, classical imagery, or something a bit more like mythological looking. And that brought me to sort of this exhibition where during lockdown, myself, but also looking at other people, I noticed that everyone was sort of struggling, and I really wanted to create a narrative around loneliness within the house. So for some people it may have been like a sanctuary, being able to be protected and hiding away in the house, and for others it was basically a lot of people struggled with being isolated away, being lonely, and I wanted to create this sort of piece around the heart of the home, the fireplace. And I particularly seen this piece over here, the Moor of Hell fireplace at Villa del Torre, and I then researched into Hellmouth fireplaces, which were very popular across Italy and France and a lot of Europe during the 15th century, slightly onward. And there was like these gaudy sort of fireplaces that were likened to this piece over here, which is actually a medieval rendering of the Hellmouth, which they believe to be within the maw of a leviathan. So I just really loved that kind of play on making a fireplace into like a Hellmouth with the flames and stuff like that. So this would be the heart of the piece. So I did a few maquettes and sketches, based on old medieval drawings and other sort of grotesques that I was researching, and sort of landed upon this sort of creature, which is what you can see at the back. And then I was looking at sort of other lines of inspiration. I'd been to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and I was in love with these sort of Dutch flower paintings. And also I was looking at the Assyrian carvings in London in sort of their museums, and these beautiful kind of growling faces, and I wanted to look more at more mythology through different cultures, and I wanted to bring a little bit of that into it. So I was looking at multiple designs for the tiles, because once again I'd approached Johnson's Tiles to collaborate with me on this. I really wanted to include sort of working with local industry, and I really wanted to support them within this exhibition. So there was multiple designs. I was taking stuff from old tapestries that I'd seen at Chatsworth, more grotesque imagery, but what I'd settled on is the two dogs and the vase, as they symbolize sort of domestication, and I wanted to make this sort of obscure play on sort of things within the house, so I settled on that. So this is me in Johnson's Tiles. They're giving me a little corner back. I once again hijacked their production line and hand painted these in this lovely lilac cobalt that will then come out blue. And having worked on that previous project, it actually went really smoothly because we knew what to expect this time. So that's what they came out like, and it's me rolling around on the dirty factory floor, making sure they're all there. Get absolutely covered. And I actually work from my garage now, so I just wanted to give people an insight into the space that I worked in to make this fireplace. I stacked 2 tables together in my little garage, and everything was fired in my little second-hand top-loader kiln. So, yeah, if you want to make something, it's possible in whatever facets you've got. Just an insight into more of my sort of sketches and on my grotesque pieces. And I was looking at more medieval imagery of these obscure little creatures. And I wanted to make 4 objects based on familiar items from the house, sort of as a play on how we are familiar with these objects. I want us to be just as familiar with our own demons within us, and they each represent something different. So the double face platter over there you can see is based on an old demon called Mott, that's always depicted with 2 faces and in constant sort of war with itself. And I wanted that to represent the part of us that may be against ourselves, and sort of this duality that we have, that might be the voice in our heads always doubting ourselves. And the Leviathan is just another little play on the Hellmouth, because it's within the maw of the Leviathan that they sort of they depicted the Hellmouth. The entrance of hell was through the maw of the Leviathan, and there's this sort of interesting topic of the mouth being an aperture to a different world, and in lots of different cultures it's through the mouth. A lot of places will say like bless you and stuff like that, because they believe if an evil spirit is to get in, it's through the mouth. And these 2 are sort of a couple. So the jug is called the giving jug, and that represents maybe the part of us that gives too much away. And the vase is the taking vase, and that's the part of us that maybe takes too much sometimes. And for everyone who questioned whether the fireplace was one large piece fired in a huge kiln, no, it wasn't. It was a large sculpture that I chopped into lots of little pieces, like one big difficult jigsaw, and I fired every single piece in my tiny little top loader in my garage, and fired. It's actually white stoneware covered in porcelain. So we made a big rig and put them all on there. And I used quartz concrete that exactly matched the colour of the porcelain to make it all one piece, basically. And this is my partner and my dad having the most difficult van journey of their life. Yeah, I think Chris in the back, he's most stressful day ever. And spent a couple of days installing it. And once again, I retrieved the tiles from Johnson's and I spent way longer deciphering what part went where than I thought it would. I was here until quite late. I'm sure everyone appreciated that. And here it is in one sort of big piece, and you can see it back there. And sort of the irony is I proposed this installation around sort of stories of hell and devils before I even knew that the venue was going to be a church. So you can imagine when the BCB turned around and was like, by the way, it's going to be in a church. We have to pass it by the reverend to make sure we're actually allowed to do this. And it turned out to be sort of an ironically amazing sort of venue for it. And sort of below the stained glass, it really completes the look. And here we are. Sorry if I waffled. Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's sort of how he uses his expressive mark making with the inks and stuff. I grew up sort of looking at his illustrations, and I guess in a way they really have influenced me, especially if you saw the ink drawing of the crows. There was a lot of his work that went into sort of inspiring me for those. Ooh, so the proposal went in about a year ago. So I guess a year really. So it took a couple of weeks of actually masterminding a proposal. There's 101 ideas that go through your head, and you really want to sort of clean one up before you propose it. You want sort of the ideal proposal. And then after that, it was a lot of figuring out, well, I sort of did the proposal. I was like, yeah, that'll look really good. And then BCB was like, yeah, do that. That sounds good. And I was like, cool. Now I have to make a fireplace, which I have never done before. And then, Johnson's really helped as well, having a couple of meetings with them how we do it. But yeah, the biggest part was figuring out actually how to make a fireplace. I would say this actually, the biggest sort of installation I did myself to date is this. Extremely proud of it and really excited to see sort of what doors it opens up, and having worked on this for the past year has really sort of put a lot more ideas into motion and has really helped me navigate sort of a path of what I want to take, whereas before that was a little bit more blurred, whereas now because of this it's really inspired some pieces that I want to make real. I did. I had to wait in London for a huge crate to be dropped off, and then I had to get a van to London to bring it back up to Stoke. So it's this huge wooden crate, and it's still in there in the garage. I'm not quite sure what I want to do with it. I just knew I wanted one, and it just lives in the garage now, and I'm trying to propose a space for it. So I'm going to have to hunt for a nice little house for that, I think. So the two sort of white raven heads, that's when I discovered that I love paper clay. It's like painting in space. It's so quick to make a gesture in it, or you push your thumb into it and there's suddenly a brand new, like, wonderful mark you've made in it. And I think that's what I love most about the paper clay, is it allows me to transform my sketches and paintings into 3D in like quick time. And because I'm a fast worker, if I can't make it now, I don't want to make it anymore. I'd lose interest. So paper clay is perfect. With how I work, one thing I'm sort of still discovering or wanting to like hone in is that balance between mark making and surface. So obviously you can't overcomplicate the surface because you lose your mark making completely within it. But also if you go overly simple with the sort of sculpture, then it kind of loses a bit of an edge. So it's like finding that balance.